Hey, it's me, Hrishikesh Kannan, popularly known as Hrishi K. Subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the bell icon now to get the latest videos and get taken into a world of entertainment, culture, sport, business, and current affairs.
You have to keep in mind that Novak is now the head of the players association. So from Novak's standpoint, he's out there asking for things that he believes, and the people who are part of the players association, they believe that the ATP and WTA should be the ones fighting for players' rights, because at the end of the day, they're the bodies that represent the players. So I think what Novak was doing was almost just to kind of send a message to say, listen, even if they say no, let's go out there and ask them. I know we've come in here with these certain rules. I think all the players knew exactly what the conditions were going to be before that, so there was no complaining. But I think from Novak's standpoint, he said, we have to do this. If they say no, they say no.
Okay, Somdev Devvarman is here with me as we're just getting ready to kick off the Aussie Open, the first Grand Slam of the year. Remember, Wimbledon didn't happen last year because of the pandemic, the first time since the Great War that didn't happen. But we still had the other Grand Slams. But 30,000 people in Delhi, lots to talk about it, Somdev. Hey, good morning. I hope the family and you are safe and healthy, bud. Most important question.
Yes, we are. Thank God. The lockdown obviously has hit us, but on the bright side, we have been fortunate in many ways. And yeah, thanks, man. We're safe. I hope you're well too.
Yeah, so far so good. Can't complain. I love the red guitar there. So was it a gift or did you buy it for yourself? Did you go off the shelves and buy it?
Actually, this red guitar over here is in Ibanez, and I bought it in a pawn store, in a pawn shop. Yeah. So it was at a time where I was playing, and I used to kind of tell myself, if it was like a gift to myself of sorts. If I did well in a tournament, I would buy myself a guitar, which in hindsight was not the best idea, because now I have a couple of guitars and I don't feel like I'm quite good enough to play that one well. I feel like somebody else would be able to take that and just shred it apart. But for me, I'm more of an acoustic guitar guy. I need one guitar and that's about it. But still, I'm having fun with all of this stuff.
But something I was reading somewhere, which is really sad, that Gibson was talking about how, the guitar sales have gone down. Back in the day when you and me went to school, the cool kids were the one with the acoustic guitar in the school or the college canteen. But these days, it's the kids with the MacBooks who are making EDM. So it's nice to see a guy who still believes in old school guitars, and I think it's cyclical, isn't it? It just comes back. Music is like that.
Yeah, I mean, it is cyclical. When I started out because I really enjoyed it. I loved it. And then I moved to a point where I really wanted to do it because I was in college. I just saved up enough money to buy myself a guitar, and I found it very useful when I wanted to talk to women. So, that's just the honest truth. And all I kind of wanted to focus on were to sing songs that were pretty current, and a few, good old jingles like the Beatles and, things like that. But generally, it was because I wanted to fit in a little bit more and things like that. Then I started playing tennis. Professional tennis happened, so that kind of took a back seat. And now it's again back, but now it's back in a completely different way because I feel like I finally realized that I enjoy it, and making music is something that's very honest for me. It's a nice place for me to be in, and now I just absolutely love music.
Let's come now to the Aussie Open 2021. Melbourne Park, the ladies' side, is very competitive. The draw has 45 out of the top 50 women playing. So your thoughts on Sofia Kenin? She won last year beating Garbine Muguruza. She's tough, also finalist at the French Open.
Yeah, I think Kenin is obviously world class. The fact that she came out here and won last year. But I think when you're talking about someone like Sofia Kenin, you have to talk about her personality. That's what really makes her unbelievably great. At that age to come back and, she was winning a lot of matches after losing the first set. She's a very, very feisty competitor. Even at the French Open, a lot of people don't talk about this, but the week before the French Open in Rome, she lost 6-love, 6-love.
Wow. Yeah.
and then followed it up with a runner-up showing at the French Open. So the best thing about when I look at an athlete's journey, there's so many ups and downs, and you really learn a lot about an athlete when you start seeing how they deal with losses, how they deal with tough situations, and losing love and love as a tennis player is like one of the hardest things out there, and to respond so strongly, it tells you a lot about this young girl's personality.
Serena Williams, I mean, 7 titles, always a threat at the Aussie Open. She just beat Naomi Osaka in Adelaide at the exhibition. I mean, it's got to count for something, I know, even though it's an exhibition. So, Serena coming into this, I want your thoughts.
Well, when Serena Williams is out there playing, especially now, every time she goes out to play, she is out there to win a Grand Slam. It's pretty simple. She's won 23. She's out there trying to win 24, and she's fallen very short a few times. She's lost to Naomi Osaka. She's lost to Sloane Stephens. She's lost to Simona Halep. She's lost to Bianca Andreescu. And the thing about Serena is every time she does step on a court, there is a certain belief that she's going to do something special. And the fact that Serena is out there playing and training right now, despite being a mother, tells you that she's not out there to do it just to be in the top 10. She's not out there to try and make a quarterfinal of a Grand Slam. She's out there because she believes that she can win. And she really wants to win her 24th and almost, stamp her place and authority in that greatest of all time list in men and women. And I think she's already up there in that conversation. But winning 24 for certain is a big focus for Serena.
There's a twist in the tail, and a good one at that. The 2019 US Open champion Bianca Andreescu is getting back to the sport. She's had a long injury layoff, Somdev. Unfortunately, her coach caught the virus. He wrote a public letter, apologizing to the other people on the plane who got quarantined because of him. So Bianca Andreescu, exciting.
Very exciting because keep in mind, this girl kind of came out of nowhere and won the US Open. And again, the style that she won it, and she really showed no fear, especially out there in the finals against Serena Williams in New York City. Pretty much the whole stadium wanting Serena to win, except for Andreescu's team, of course. So it just tells you that she's incredibly gutsy. She has a lot of self-belief. And she has struggled with some injuries, so I don't think we should put too many expectations on her, but also don't count out an upset because Andreescu, when she's playing well, is without a doubt one of the best players in the world. She has a huge game and that self-belief to back it up. If she wins 2 or 3 matches and makes it late in the tournament, then she'll be a real threat.
And Naomi Osaka, I mean, I'm a fan.
Who isn't a fan?
And people are going to be rooting for
reasons.
her.
So many different reasons. She's so lovely, yeah.
And that US Open win last year was so special, wasn't it? What are you expecting from her? Like I said, a loss in Adelaide, but it's just an exhibition. Let's get your views on Naomi Osaka.
I think Naomi Osaka is one of the most exciting players out there in the WTA period. The fact that she's Japanese with a little bit of Haitian in her, the fact that she I think she appeals to a very, very large and very international tennis audience, and her game style, put all of that together with her personality. Unlike the others, she's very shy, openly very shy. And I actually, one of the favorite things I like about Osaka, apart from her game, of course, is her, on-court interviews. I think she's, a lot of times when we see these people, we forget that they're 21, 22, 23 years old, and I think sometimes I almost have to remind myself when I'm talking to a 21-year-old now who's just finishing college, think about the mental space, the maturity that they're in and the things that they have to deal with. And then think of the things that, Naomi Osaka has done at her young age. And I think once you put all of that into perspective, you see how well she's handled her career, because she's so young and she's already had a huge up and a huge down. I think a year or two ago, she was out there saying all she wanted to do was spend time on a tennis court and have fun. That's when she was losing, week after week. And then she did that, came back and then, won the Aussie Open. So, that was a couple years ago. So I think for sure the heavy hitting Osaka has got to be one of the favorites, especially if she's feeling good.
Somdev, Ashley Barty, world number one, hasn't played since Feb of 2020. A home crowd factor, lots of people, in particular Todd Woodbridge, says she reminds people of Martina Hingis.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that because she's also had a lot of double success. But Ash Barty, first of all, incredible athlete. I think she made it to a pretty high level in women's cricket as well.
Yeah.
So she's one of those people that is an incredible athlete, and you can totally see it in the way she plays the game. Unlike Sophia Kenin or a Bianca Andreescu, who really go after and hit their shots, with a lot of authority. Ashley Barty is one of those players that has the ability to be crafty. She's won several doubles Grand Slams, still very young, and she's obviously been world number one and has had single success as well in the Grand Slam. So undoubtedly one of the favorites for the tournament. Obviously, when you look at her and you look at the way she competes and fights, she's also almost that quintessential Australian athlete, who wears her heart on her sleeve, gives it a lot of come-ons, really pumped up when she plays and gets the crowd behind her, super positive attitude, great sportsman. So it's really, really fun watching her because she throws so many different things, and she hits a heavy forehand. She's got a great kick serve. She's got a nice backhand. She's got great volleys. So I think watching Ashley Barty has to be one of the most entertaining things out there.
My final player of focus on the ladies' side is Simona Halep, always dangerous. She won Wimbledon in 2019 and the French Open in the year before that. Here she is coming in to this tournament, very charged up. Let's talk about Simona.
Well, Simona, I mean, one of the best competitors out there in the world for sure. I think when Simona is feeling really good about her game, it's so much hard work for the other player to beat her. She gets every ball back. She can pass you from anywhere. Every time she finds a way to start holding serve. And when Simona Halep starts doing that, that's when she becomes really dangerous because her return game is absolutely on fire. Put that in with the ability that, she's probably one of the best athletes on the WTA tour, along with the fact that she has a great coach in Darren Cahill. So whenever she comes into a match, she's, mentally, physically prepped, but also has a fantastic game plan and has the maturity to handle situations and execute on her game plan. So, for me, Simona Halep is one of the best grinders out there with the ability to play offense as well. So when she starts clicking offensively, her defensive skills are some of the best in the world. So when she starts clicking offensively, that's when she's a real threat. But I mean, I love watching Simona because, in my opinion, one of the best fighters out there for sure.
Before we head into the men's draw, there's been so much drama, Somdev. Novak has been complaining about the quarantine rules in Australia. He even wrote a few letters to Craig Tiley, emails, the tournament director, saying players should be allowed ease of quarantine rules, maybe be even given a house with a tennis court. Also, there's been controversy around Tomic's wife complaining, and other players saying there are mice in the room. Top players put up in better hotels than the lesser known players. Craig Tiley says that's the nature of the beast. Nick Kyrgios has gone and criticized Novak and Tomic's wife. Zverev is defending Novak. So all this off-court drama, and what do you feel about this quarantine thing?
Listen, you put 256 top-class athletes in a room for 2 weeks, and you expect them to stay quiet. It's just not going to happen. These guys are used to living at a certain standard, and that being said, a couple of things. First of all, with the Novak situation, while he did, you have to keep in mind that, Novak is now the head of the Players Association. So from Novak's standpoint, he's out there asking for things that he believes in. The people who are part of the Players Association, they believe that the ATP and WTA should be the ones fighting for players' rights. Because at the end of the day, they're the bodies that represent the players. So I think what Novak was doing was almost just to kind of send a message to say, listen, even if they say no, let's go out there and ask them. I know we've come in here with these certain rules. I think all the players knew exactly what the conditions were going to be before that, so there was no complaining. But I think from Novak's standpoint, he said, we have to do this. If they say no, they say no. And so that's kind of the situation that unfolded. And you even saw, like you said, Zverev, there was, Karen Busta, there was quite a few players out there saying, listen, we support Novak because he was out there trying to make a change to better the conditions for all players. So in a sense, that was respected. And at the end of the day, I think with Novak, I don't think any of this stuff will be, too much of a distraction. This guy knows how to play as an underdog. This guy knows how to play when, the crowd is cheering against him. This guy was the same guy who said when people are shouting Roger and Rafa in the crowd, he somehow finds a way to draw inspiration from that and take his game to the next level. So, when it comes to Novak Djokovic, especially in Australia, 8-time champion in Australia, certainly chasing Roger and Rafa's record right now, I don't think that is going to bother him.
Yeah, and Nick always says what he wants, doesn't he? Kyrgios.
Of course, and that kind of I like it. Listen, I think having a guy like Nick is of tremendous value to the ATP and to every tournament, because if Nick Kyrgios is doing well, there's always some sort of buzz around it. So I think, listen, it's every player's right to speak their mind, and I don't think disagreements are a bad thing necessarily, as long as they're done in a respectful way. So yeah, Nick Kyrgios being Nick Kyrgios shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. Especially when it comes to being responsible with the COVID situation. I think he's been a little. He was a little standoffish towards the players in the summer. He thought that they were being irresponsible when it came to how they were dealing with the virus. And I think that's fine. I think as long as that reasonable communication kind of happens to and fro, it's all good with Nick Kyrgios.
Yeah, and you put things into perspective as far as Novak is concerned. I mean, he's a two-time defending champion, 8 titles overall. You got to call him a favorite, but that was a tough 5-setter against Team last year. Not easy at all. You still think he's hungry enough to go the full distance? Yeah.
Hunger is certainly not the issue for Novak Djokovic, mainly because he's still 3 behind Rafa and Roger.
Yeah.
So I think, it's no secret. Anybody who follows tennis will know that Novak would not want to stop until he has achieved what he believes he can achieve. I was kind of chatting with a few friends, and I reminded them that, 12 months ago, Novak Djokovic, when asked on an interview, what would you rather win, the Olympics or the Slam, he said he wants to win them all. And in 2021, we have another unique opportunity for Novak as well as the other players, is they have 4 Grand Slams, but they also have the Olympics. So Novak is one of those guys who generally, when he sets his eyes on a target, he's super focused and, he tries to accomplish that. The last time he was, in this situation for the Rio Olympics in 2016, I thought he kind of ran out of gas, but that was also because that was the first year he won the French Open. And he went out there, won it, and then he came back obviously a little emotionally drained and a tough first round draw in Del Potro. But now I think Novak is a lot older, a lot more mature, and truly believes that if he's at the top of his game, he's one of the hardest guys to beat, and I don't think anybody can disagree with that.
Well, Rafa certainly is going after Roger's record of most Grand Slam titles. Of course, the double career Grand Slam. He just had a good turnout in Adelaide. He beat Novak in Paris, but you could argue that he's the king of clay because, maybe that doesn't count. But, what a furious tournament that was, Somdev. I mean, he didn't even drop a set before winning.
Yeah, I mean, Rafa on clay is a different beast, isn't it? I mean, every single time I see it, it absolutely blows my mind because, Rafa is actually doing the things that us as coaches and mentors go out there and we tell kids, never take a point off, never lose focus on a single shot, regardless of whether you win the point or lose the point. You've got to come back and start from scratch with that same intensity. Now, all of these things as players, I mean, as people, we all know what the right thing to do is. So we know the right things to say, but to actually go out there and do it every single day, it's just so hard. And so Rafa at the French Open, for me, it's not a machine. It's somebody who's found a perfect way to, gather all his thoughts, make his world just around him, and focus on the job at hand. And no one in any sport, in my opinion, no one in any sport has handled themselves like Rafa has handled himself at the French. And when he's out there at the French, he's still humble. Can you
Yep.
imagine, like,
Yep.
going out there, winning the French Open 13 times and still being humble about it? So, I made a quote last year on Twitter. I said, if Rafael Nadal isn't arrogant at the French Open, nobody has the right to be arrogant anyway.
Dominic Thiem, what an exciting next gen player. Now, interesting statistic, and I want your comment on this. If he wins in Australia and Rafa loses before the semis, he will be the first number 2 in the world since 2005 outside the big four. That means there's never been a world number 2 apart from Novak, Roger, Rafa, or Andy since 2005. And the last guy to do that was Leighton Hewitt. So,
Yeah.
this is a big one for Dominic. But you think he'll go all the way?
Tough. I mean, he's got a lot of work cut out for him. Let's just put it that way. But I think also when you're talking about a guy like Dominic Thiem, I think winning a Grand Slam, in a sense, takes away a lot of weight from him. Keeping in mind this guy has been in Grand Slam finals 3 times before he finally won his 4th, and unfortunately for him, the 3 finals he played were 2 against Rafa in Paris and 1 against Novak in Melbourne, which are some of the hardest things to do in our sport. And I think he put up a great fight in 2 of those 3. One was straight sets against Rafa, but the other was in 4, and the other one was 5 sets against Novak last year. So, in a sense, Dominic Thiem is probably better now than he has ever been in, maturity-wise and understanding his own limitations, his own game, and how to maximize, his own potential. So, for sure, you have to say that Dominic Thiem is the 3rd favorite for the tournament. I would add a couple other names along, with that mix. But I also think it's really, really important because he's the first one that has actually gone out there and won a Grand Slam that's not one of these guys. So in a sense, he's kind of created that path. He's kind of opened the things that were blocking everybody. And now a lot of players perhaps think that, if Dominic did it, all of us have a chance. So I'm sure that, the next gen, Tsitsipas, Zverev, all of them are thinking, we're right around the corner.
Well, Zverev, lots of other issues. He split with David Ferrer, his coach. He's been accused of domestic violence by a former girlfriend, legal dispute with his former agent, also split with Roger Federer's sports management company teammate. The good news is he's becoming a father again. You think Zverev will put it all together to be a serious contender, at least make the semifinals, which everybody is hoping he'll do?
Listen, didn't he have all of this stuff going on for him even during the US Open?
Yeah,
he did. He did have a lot of that stuff. So, he's proven a couple things that he can block distractions and focus on his game. It's harder said than done, obviously. All of us have kind of felt that in our own lives, in our own professions. Me as a player, it's really hard when you have that many distractions off court. Sometimes it can be hard. But I think he's done a really good job. I understand that a lot of people have split with him, including his coach, Rogers Management Agency. He's had disputes with a lot of people. But tough times for him, to be honest with you. I think it's going to be hard. I can see him doing pretty well, but I can also see him lose before the 4th round. I can see that happen. He has done it in the past, so it's going to be, in my opinion, a tough road for Sasha.
Let's talk about some other danger men. Medvedev, hottest player on the ATP tour when 2020 ended. He comes into 2021 having beaten 1, 2, and 3 Novak, Rafa, and Thiem to win the ATP finals in London. So, your thoughts on Medvedev?
Undoubtedly, in my opinion, one of the heaviest favorites in pretty much every tournament he enters. And I think obviously he kind of burst onto the scene a couple of years ago when he had that incredible run of winning, beating the top guys and winning Masters Series before making to the finals of the US Open and losing in 5 sets to Rafa. So Medvedev for me is another really interesting character. I think the way he handles the crowd, especially with what he did in New York in 2019. For the entire tournament, the crowd was against him, and suddenly in the finals, when he's out there playing Rafa, he finds a way to kind of get the crowd behind his back just by the way he goes out there, competes, and leaves it all out on the court. I think that's something that all tennis fans at the end of the day truly appreciate. And I think Medvedev has done a fantastic job, and just his game style. He's a big guy. He's got an absolute cannon of a serve. Really no weaknesses from the baseline. Maybe coming forward is probably not his strong suit, but I think he's learned how to kind of cover up that part of his game because of his other strengths. But yeah, for me, honestly, Medvedev is one of the best personalities out there on the ATP tour, and for him to start becoming more and more successful is definitely going to help our sport.
Man, two kids. Before we wrap up the men's draw, there's this 17-year-old called Carlos Alcaraz. I mean, the comparisons to Rafa are obvious. He's going to be made for years to come, given his strong form on clay. But I believe that he's got an aggressive game style, and he himself, Alcaraz, says that he's modeling himself on Roger Federer. So that's one kid I want to comment on. The other is that 19-year-old Italian called Yannick Sinner. I mean, he was included in the Adelaide exhibition tournament along with the top three, and that means people are already sitting up and noticing. So Sinner and Alcaraz.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, one thing I always tell people, to go out there and to compare yourself or to be compared with, and this even goes up to the next gen. So when you're talking about the Zverev, Tsitsipas's teams, Medvedev's, so on, Shapovalov, all of them. The problem is you're comparing them to the three greatest players to have ever stepped on a tennis court. You're not comparing them to Andre Agassi. You're not comparing them to guys that won a couple slams, Pat Rafters and Goran Ivanisevic and Andy Roddick's, Juan Carlos Ferrero, all of these guys. You're comparing the next gen to the three greatest players that have ever played the game. And I think that's just really, really big shoes to fill. And it's, why would you want to add that kind of pressure on yourself? So for Alcaraz, super talented. I mean, obviously, the Spanish system has being around the Spanish system has really helped him kind of become a better player. But I think it's dangerous to compare yourself to that level of success this early on. Very few people have been able to kind of carry that weight on their shoulders, and the three people that stand out are the three big ones. Because luckily for us, we can look back at 2003, 2004. And even before Roger had won his first slam at Wimbledon, people were comparing him to Sampras, and he lived up to it. Even before Rafa had won 5-6 French Opens, they were calling him one of the best clay courters that they've seen come out of Spain. He lived up to that expectation. And Novak was, winning challengers at 15 and 16. Everyone knew he was going to be great, but this great, like, can you really predict these kind of numbers? I personally think it's really hard, because there's so many things that can happen to a player's career. So that being said, let's look at guys who were compared to Roger before. Grigor Dimitrov was compared to Roger when he was 18 years old. He was world number one junior, winning junior Wimbledon, but obviously hasn't quite come through in a Grand Slam yet. But he still had a remarkable career, top 10. Won the ATP World Tour Finals, winning Master Series. So I think it gets a little dangerous when you start comparing. But I will say this: the most exciting player for me on the ATP tour is undoubtedly Yannick Sinner. When you said that name, I think it really shows that you also know your stuff. You follow your tennis, and Yannick Sinner for me is a crazy talent, because the guy's really got no weaknesses. He's got a cannon of a serve. He's an incredible athlete. I think he was one of the 14 or 16 and under in Europe. He was a skiing champion. So something that a lot of people don't know about him. So it tells you a couple of things. One is, obviously knows how to win. But two is, the guy must be an incredible athlete to be European skiing champion at a young age. So he's found a way to kind of translate his success on a tennis court as well. He hits a huge ball, absolutely massive hitter on both sides, the forehand and the backhand. And on top of that, he's like 6'4", 6'5", and he serves cannons and can move. So in a sense, Yannick Sinner is a the modern day tennis players, the ones that are going to be successful, I think they have to be big, they have to serve big, hit the ball big, and move well. So I think I feel like the biggest change we're seeing in modern tennis. Back in the day, when you had a big guy, he generally wasn't as solid of the baseline. You can look at Greg Ruzetsky and Max Mirny and Marc Rosset. There's so many of these big guys who used to have massive serves, but were never as good from the baseline. But now you start taking a look. Every other guy is 6'6", serves big, hits forehands and backhands really well, and they move really well. So that's really the modern day tennis player, and I think Yannick Sinner is going to find himself in the top 10 very soon, and then he's going to be contending for slams within 2 or 3 years for sure.
Just loved your insights on the women's and the men's draws. So such an incisive look at the Aussie Open 2021 as far as those two draws are concerned.